So the Nvidia CEO, Jensen Huang, just released a talk about programming and how he said that programming is dead and how everyone in the world will become programmers through the upcoming advancement of AI. This article is from tomshardware.com and I'll put a link in the description. But basically, he's predicting the death of coding. And he discourages kids from learning how to code. And this raises the question, does that mean that people who are learning how to code right now, should they give up learning? So he says some interesting things, and this article highlights some of that. And so he says that we should stop saying kids should learn to code. And he says that the rise of AI means we can replace programming languages with human language prompts, thus enabling everyone to be a programmer. And in so doing, AI will kill coding. That's interesting. So I'm a programmer. I've been programming for many years. I've coded in C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, C#, and C. C is the one that I'm most comfortable with. And so I do have some thoughts about this. I've also used GitHub Copilot and ChatGPT to generate code before. So I'll be sharing some of my thoughts about that in this video. And I'll be sharing 3 main thoughts on my response or my thoughts and reflections about this article. And then I'll give a final recommendation for people who are self-learning right now. What should they do in light of the upgrowing trend of AI in the world? So I'm Henrik, and I'm here to teach you the skills and tools that you need to learn in order to grow in your software development journey. So let's get started. By the way, if you're in the early stages of your programming journey, I've got a special gift for you. It's called my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a guide that will take you from no coding experience to building your first 4 projects. And the best part is it's free. It's a free gift to you. In this coding challenge, I guide you in 30 days to build 4 programming projects, and I give you some tutorials that are in C. But of course, these projects are really generic and really beginner friendly, and so you can actually code them in different programming languages. You can still benefit from this guide because you can just take the principles that are in my challenge and then apply them to your programming language. You can find the challenge in the link in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts that will give you a good foundation to your software development journey. Alright, so my first thought is AI code has a lot of errors. Unsurprisingly, it has a lot of errors. If you try to use ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot, you're going to see a lot of errors, and you'll have to fix a lot of bugs that the AI code will give you. I experienced this firsthand when I was using GitHub Copilot, and also sometimes when I was using ChatGPT. For the most part, for simple things, they can give you code that really works, but a lot of times for more complicated tasks, if I use the AI code that it gives me, after giving a certain prompt to it, it can give me something basic, it can give me a structure, but there's going to be bugs in there. There are bugs in there, and I have to fix them manually. I have to understand the code that the AI code generated, and then based on my understanding of the AI code, then I'm going to fix the bug that it gave me. Alright, so now I want to get to the crux of the matter. So why does AI code have errors? AI code has errors because it is trained on human code. So it looks at what I understand about GitHub Copilot is it takes all of the public repositories that it has in GitHub, and then it's able to train the GitHub Copilot AI based on those code bases. And those code bases are written by humans. And so if you have if you're training an AI based on human code, the AI will just code the same way that the humans are coding. And so if humans are error prone, then the AI will also be error prone as well. So if we're gonna have AI to replace programmers, then yeah, sure, it can replace some programmers because some programmers don't know how to program. So yeah, maybe it will replace some programmers, but we still need to keep an eye on it because there's going to be some errors there. So you'll actually need some really good programmers to be able to double check the work of these AI programs. Think about the physical world. We have a lot of machines nowadays that kind of replace humans, right? So we'll have these machines like kiosks or these factory machines that are doing all the things that humans could not do or have done in the past, but they still need humans to manage it. They still need humans to watch it, to be there in case something wrong happens. So I think the same will be true for AI. We can have the AI replace some programming tasks that humans have traditionally done, but we'll still need humans to be there to watch it, make sure it's doing the right thing. All right, thought number 2, programmers are not just coders who just code all day, but they are digital architects. Being a programmer is not really about the language that you're using, it's about being able to manage and create a system that can accomplish a set of tasks. When I think of myself as a software developer, I don't see myself as a C programmer or a Java programmer or a Python programmer. It's not really about the language, it's about all the different ideas that come into play when you're trying to get your computer to do something. When I'm given tasks at my company, it's not so much the programming language itself. The programming language is a means to an end. I'm thinking more about what are the customer requirements, what are the needs, what do they need our product to do, and then I see the language as a way to manipulate our computer or our electronics or our product to do that thing. Think about verbal languages. What are verbal languages? They're just ways to communicate ideas that are inside your head to somebody else. And so likewise with programming languages, it's not really about the programming language itself. It's really about communicating the ideas that are here and being able to have our electronics or our products or our computers do what we're thinking about. The beauty about programmers is that programmers know how to work with computers. Programmers know how to interface with computers. You can't just have any random person be able to make a computer do something. You will need to hire a software developer who can make the computer do the thing for you. And that's because the software developer speaks that language. The software developer is kind of like a translator, being able to translate a customer's needs into the product. I guess what Jensen Huang is talking about here is that we don't need that translator. We're just going to have people talk in their human language, and then the computer will automatically know what to do. This kind of thing is already happening though without AI. It's happening in this field called Nocode. There's a lot of tools out there that will help people build websites without learning how to code. I was just listening to this podcast about a woman who was able to fully design her websites without knowing how to code, and she was just able to use what are called no-code tools. Coding libraries are also an instance where programmers are being replaced by other programmers, because in a coding library, a programmer has built it already. So these other programmers, they don't need to program it from scratch. They can just use these libraries. They can just call these APIs and be able to do something that they usually wouldn't be able to do because they're using this library. So what do programmers think of no-code tools and libraries? They actually love them because it empowers them to be able to do things they normally wouldn't be able to do. And it also removes a lot of menial tasks when it comes to programming, because if someone has already built something that they can use, then they'd rather just use that so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's where the GitHub Copilot really shines, because a lot of times when I was using it, I would want to code an idea and I could just tell the GitHub Copilot to code it for me, and then I can double check to make sure it actually works. And then it would give me the code and I wouldn't have to build it from scratch. So I think that's where AI can really shine in the development world. At my programming jobs, whenever I would get a task at my companies, I would say that I only code like around 5 to 15% of the time. Most of the time it goes in 4 phases. It's first, you understand what the customer need is, and maybe they want you to develop a new feature, or they want you to fix a bug. So that's the first part. You really need to understand the requirements. And then the second one is propose plan of action. Make a proposed plan where how would you go about implementing this in your code? So you come up with a plan first. And then the third one would be the actual coding, where you implement what you said you were going to do in your proposal. And then the fourth one would be to integrate my code with someone else's code. Usually in my company, we have teams of developers, and we have one team over there, we have one team here, and then we code different parts of our product, and then we have to put those pieces of code together. And when we put the pieces of code together, sometimes it doesn't, or almost every time, it doesn't work the first time. So we need to massage our code, make sure when we put these code bases together and when they start interfacing with each other, we want to make sure that that interface works and the programs are working the way that they are intended to work. So I can see AI doing number 3, which is the actual coding. It can do number 3, and maybe some of number 2, where it's able to propose a plan of action. I was able to ask GitHub Copilot how they would implement something, and it was able to give me some ideas. But I think for the most part, number 2 is going to be it's going to require a human who understands the code base. And where I see GitHub Copilot failing was it doesn't really understand my code base. It only has a high level understanding of code. And this is where I saw GitHub Copilot not working really well. It's only good for generic cases. And if I want to ask it to implement something that I was going to look online anyways to look for some example code, GitHub Copilot could do that, but it doesn't know my code base, so it couldn't give suggestions on how to code a certain feature within the context of my whole code base. So bottom line, AI can probably replace some programming tasks, but it's not going to be able to replace the full programmer. And that's because programming and being a programmer is not just about typing code all the time or typing all these code and knowing how to code. It's actually knowing how to get your computer or your system or your code base, or you're working with another team to make the product do what the customer wants. And that leads me to my last point. So thought number 3 is that AI will probably replace other jobs first before coders. And I don't understand why people automatically rush to think that AI is going to replace coders. There's a lot of jobs that if AI could replace coders, and if we could get to the point where we could program without software developers and anyone can program, then AI at that point would be really advanced. And if AI was that advanced, AI can replace a lot of other professions too. I don't think people really understand what it really entails if AI was able to fully replace programmers. If AI can fully replace programmers, then as we have just established, being a programmer is not just about coding. It's also there's a human element that's involved. So if AI has gotten to the place where it can replace programmers, then that means it has gotten to the place where it can replace humans. And if it has been able to replace humans, then a lot of professions that are thought that it could only be done by humans, those will be replaced too. I don't want to step on any toes here, but let's think about other professions. Let's say, for example, program managers. If AI has gotten so advanced that it's been able to replace humans in programming, then it can probably replace some humans in program management. So why couldn't we just get an AI, like a program manager AI, and be able to manage our programs that way? Maybe you'll say, oh, well, program management requires a human element to it, and so you actually need human interaction. Well, if AI has gotten to that point where it has replaced the human element of programmers, then it's gotten to that point already where it's indistinguishable from being a human. So thinking about it philosophically, then it is able to replace that human element that's required for program management. So basically, just think about any profession. If AI was advanced enough to replace programmers and was able to bypass that human element that's required for programming, then it can replace a lot of other professions. All right, so what's my final recommendation if you're a self-learner, if you're learning how to code? I would say just continue learning how to code. So yeah, just learn how to code and adapt to the times. As we're getting more AI tools for programmers, for software developers, start using those tools. Be aware of what's possible so that you don't end up coding things that could have been done really simply through an AI tool. Advancements in technology is not something unnew to programmers. Programmers have for many decades been adapting to new and more advanced technology. And if you're a self-learner, you're learning how to code, I think that's already a good skill that you're learning. You're learning how to self-learn, and that's what's needed if you're going to adapt. And so we need to self-learn the new technologies, the new AI technologies that are coming up. We need to be able to self-learn those technologies. And so maybe we hear about these new AI tools, GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT. We need to start integrating them into our development environment so we don't get left behind. Okay, so for fun, why don't we ask ChatGPT what ChatGPT thinks about this? Alright, so it's unlikely that programming will become obsolete anytime soon. While advancements in AI and automation might streamline some aspects of programming, there will always be a need for human creativity, problem solving, and understanding of complex systems. Wow, that's basically what I said. This doesn't mean that the role of human programmers will disappear. Instead, it may evolve to focus more on higher level tasks, such as designing algorithms, architecting systems, and understanding user needs. Wow, I also just mentioned that earlier too. All right, so there you have it. That's what the AI thinks, and that's really similar to what I was saying. It had echoed some of my similar sentiments. And so just to recap, my thoughts were, the first one is that AI code has errors. The second one is that programmers are not just coders, they're digital architects. And then the last one I said was that AI will replace other jobs first before it replaces coders. All right, like I mentioned earlier, if you're just starting off in your programming journey and you don't know where to start, you can download my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a 30-day guide where I teach you how to build those 4 beginner programming projects. It's really beginner friendly, and I go step by step on how to build each one and then go through the tutorials that you need to build each one. So download that in the link in the description. All right, that's it for this week's video. I hope it helped you out and encouraged you to continue learning how to code. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think that coding is dead? Do you still think that coding is dead even after everything that I've said? Or do you agree with some of the things that I said? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's it for this week's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.